Good morning, everyone. My name is Mr. Jason Wall, and I'm one of the vice principals here at Charles Spencer School. I would like just to welcome everyone to our Remembrance Day Assembly. We are doing this virtually once again. However, I think it can still be a very meaningful service, and I do thank everyone for their participation here. As we are participating, we want to be as though we are all present together. Let us show the dignity and respect that is due for this somber and important occasion. At this time, I would like to invite Cadet Amy May to come forward to read our land acknowledgement.
We acknowledge the homeland of many diverse First Nations and Métis people, whose ancestors have walked this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to work, live, and learn on the traditional territory of the Treaty 8. Please rise for the playing of O Canada.
You may be seated. And at this time, Cadet Jorge Suarez will come forward and he will read for us in Flanders Fields.
Today, I will be reading In Flanders Fields by Colonel John McCrae. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row and row. At a marker place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw the sunset glow, loved and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from falling hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If you break faith with those who die, we shall not sleep, though the poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Remembrance Day is a special occasion set aside in our calendar for the purpose of honoring and remembering Canada's veterans. This has been our tradition as a country and throughout the British Commonwealth since World War I ended over 100 years ago. That ceasefire came into effect at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, and thus we do continue to recognize Remembrance Day on November 11th. By participating in this assembly, we honor the men and women who served in Canada's armed forces in decades past. We also recognize those veterans who are currently enrolled in Canada's armed forces, both inside our nation's borders and in many locations all around the world. This nation, in which we all live and enjoy, would not be possible if it was not for the sacrifice and service of Canada's armed forces. In our history, since Canada confederated, more than 2.3 million men and women have served in Canada's military. Of that number, 118,000 and more paid with their lives. In our assembly today, it is our hope to acknowledge that Canada's veterans are more than a statistic or a historical footnote in a textbook. Canada's veterans are our friends and our family. They are our neighbors. They are connected to us and amongst us. And our theme for this particular service is to recognize the Highway of Heroes. This is a song made famous by the Troops, a Canadian band. And of course, when it was first written, its intent was to honor the war dead who served in Afghanistan. For us, we're acknowledging our connection to veterans and our family past and in other ways, and acknowledging that it is more than a distant person who is a veteran. Like I said, they are our family, and we do have a connection to them, and it is our desire to honor them. Now, we've actually had more than 45, I think the number's closer to 50 now, veterans recognized in our Charles Spencer Highway of Heroes. And it has been our hope that, and to engage in remembering, that perhaps students, parents, teachers might have a conversation with one another, perhaps do a little research and learn a little bit more about their family's past, and perhaps we can extend this gesture of remembrance beyond this assembly and into our day-to-day lives. We have so much to be thankful for, and as we honor veterans, this is one way for us to be rooted to our past and to move forward together into the future. Now, I am going to call upon a few students and staff to specifically acknowledge their veterans, and they will speak to them, and we will also reflect upon the question, why is it that we remember? Now, the first student I'd like to call upon is in grade 12. His name is Nolan Zahara. I invite you to come forward and share your veteran that you would like to honor today.
My great-grandfather, William E. Zahara, was in the Army. He was born January 12th of 1920. Private Zahara served in World War II from December 4th, 1941 to October 3rd, 1945. One of his main jobs was to chauffeur the officers. He was involved with the Aleutian Island mission when the Japanese Army invaded. He was also stationed in Victoria, British Columbia. He was a member of the Winnipeg Grenadiers, and when he was stationed in Manitoba, he met his future wife, Marion, who is still with us at 97 years old, living here in Grand Prairie. Private Zahara passed away peacefully in Spirit River, March 23rd, 2012, at age 92.
Thank you, Nolan. At this time, I would invite Cadet Dawn Salmon and Mrs. Fran Rogers to come up and share with us their veteran.
Why do we remember? We remember to acknowledge the courage and sacrifice of those who served in the nation's defense. We acknowledge our responsibility to work for the peace they fought so hard to achieve. We remember those whose lives we have lost and lives that were changed forever. We hold their loved ones, families, and communities in our hearts.
Good morning. My name is Fran. I'm from Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation. I work here at Charles Spencer High School, and I'm speaking to honor or on behalf of Indigenous veterans that were also part of World War I and II. I did put my grandfather's picture in the highway over there of remembrance. His name was George Geloss, and he served in World War II. And had he not come back, then I would not be here, right? Just like many of you and your relatives. So I hold this feather to honor those veterans as well as your own, and our grandparents, and our great-grandparents. And in the Indigenous community, we have how we honor our veterans today is in any gathering that we hold of a public nature that's special, like this one, we have flags that we bring in to acknowledge our homelands and whoever's nation we happen to be in. And we also have something called an eagle staff, and it's got a curved end like this, and it's bent. And the significance of that staff is that we have chose to stop fighting in the particular battle of that land, but it can always be unbent. And so that's the diligence of the communities, and that's always brought in to show that willingness to fight for your community. And in World War I, Indigenous men were not allowed to sign up because we were considered different citizens. But by World War II, that had changed. And many Indigenous people fought for this country alongside your relatives, and I'm grateful for that, to see you all here today. You can ask Rumkin.
And at this time, Mrs. Hartmeyer, one of our teachers here, has a veteran to honor and share about as well.
My grandfather, George Boomgarden, served in World War II. And like so many who fought in that war and other world wars like it, he came back from seeing a great many tragedies and heartbreaks, and he was unable to speak about his experiences once he was home around friends and family. I grew up knowing that my grandpa served in World War II, but I didn't know what his rank was. I didn't know where he served, and I didn't know what horrors he might have been through. And it wasn't until my grade 12 year when, to my surprise, he walked up in front of the school audience as the guest veteran that year at our Remembrance Day ceremony that I learned that he was a lance corporal who worked for the military police, driving as a dispatcher and working as a mechanic. And I learned that he had such a passion for fighting for his country that, like many, he had lied about his age, and he joined at 16. And when they found out, they kept him in England until he was 17, and then he was sent off to ride a motorcycle as that dispatcher. I also learned that he had lost part of his big toe during a motorcycle accident. He had traveled and served through countries like Austria and Italy, Holland and Belgium, and although I had never seen him drink a drop, apparently he had developed a fondness for wine. How did I not know this information about my own grandfather? How did I not know about the loss of part of his toe? And why was I finding out about my grandfather at the same time as 300 other students? I believe it's because it was part of the pain it took for him to remember. I can't imagine what that would have felt like to come home with 3 or 4 or even 5 years worth of memories and not be able to share those with the people that I know and love. For my grandfather, it was easier to share those memories with a room full of strange students than it was to sit down with me and talk about what it was like for him during his service in the war. But I'll never know though. Much like most of you, my grandfather has been gone for quite a while. So I can only guess what he would have shared with me if he was able. So I think that's why it is important for us to remember for our veterans. We need to continue to share their stories and to continue to have Remembrance Day so we can help them share, even though many of them couldn't. We need to keep on remembering for their experiences and the facts and the dates and the times. And most of all, we need to remember the sacrifices that they made in whatever capacity they served, so we could have the freedoms that we so readily enjoy now. So thank you, Grandpa, for your service, and thank you to all that have served in the past and who are serving now. We will remember them.
Thank you, Mrs. Hartmeyer. At this time, what we've done is we've gathered up all of the images that have been shared with us, and we have shortened down the captions slightly, although the full captions are in our display, just because they will scroll through in a presentation here. So as we listen to the Trues and their song, The Highway of Heroes, we will also see the images of the veterans who have been shared with us.
The day I shipped out, they numbered a dozen. Upon my return, we're 100 or so. From the coast and from the prairies, I bet they keep coming. Add one more name from Ontario and carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above with the flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love, there was never more. I served with distinction, no visions of glory. I served without question, of personal gain. Seek no justification, it's not part of my story, and it offers no comfort to the ones who remain. Just carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above, with the flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love, there was never more. I took up my vocation, I was called by my nation without hesitation. My answer I gave. Now I'm not wondering the things that I might have been, are no consolation to the forgotten brave. So carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above with the flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love, there was never more. Carry me home down the highway of heroes. People I love with their hands down low. And carry me softly down the highway of heroes.
At this time, we will have grade 11 student Isabel Abbott perform for us Traveling Soldier by the Dixie Chicks.
2 days past 18, he was waiting for the bus in his army green. Sat down at a booth cafe there, gave his order to a girl with a bow in her head. He's a little shy, so she gave him a smile. He said, would you mind sitting down for a while and talking to me? I'm feeling a little low. She said, I'm off in an hour and I know where we can go. So they went down and they sat on a pier. He said, I bet you got a boyfriend, but I don't care. I got no one to send a letter to. Would you mind if I sent one back here to you? I cried, never gonna hold the hand of another guy. Too young for him, they told her, waiting for the love of a traveling soldier. Our love will never end, waiting for the soldier to come back again. Never more to be alone. When the letter said a soldier's coming home. So the letters came from the army camp in California, then Vietnam, and he told her of his heart. It might be love for all the things he was so scared of. He said, when it's getting kind of rough over here, I think of that day sitting down on a pier, and I close my eyes to see your pretty smile. Don't worry, I won't be able to write for a while. I cried, never gonna hold the hand of another guy. Too young for him, they told her, waiting for the love of a traveling soldier. Our love will never end, waiting for the soldier to come back again. Never more to be alone. When the letter said a soldier's coming home. One Friday night at a football game, the Lord's Prayer said and the anthem sang, and a man said, folks, would you bow your heads for the list of local Vietnam dead? Crying all alone under the stands was a piccolo player in a marching band, and one named Red, but nobody really cared. But a pretty little girl with a bow in her hair. I cried, never gonna hold the hand of another guy. Too young for him, they told her, waiting for the love of a traveling soldier. Our love will never end, waiting for the soldier to come back again. Never more to be alone. When the letter said the soldier's coming, I cried, never gonna hold the hand another guy. Too young for him, they told her, waiting for the love of a traveling soldier. Our love will never end, waiting for the soldier to come back again. Never more to be alone. When the letter said, soldier's coming home.
Okay, we've come to the point in our Remembrance Day service where we're going to hear Mr. Luna play on his trumpet both Last Post, that will be followed by a moment of silence, and then the Reveille. Now, during this, as a gesture of respect, I would ask that everyone please stand. And when he is finished, we'll allow to be seated. Please be seated. So we're nearing the conclusion of our Remembrance Day service here today. And before we conclude, I would like to thank and acknowledge some individuals and groups for supporting our Remembrance Day today. Firstly, I would like to recognize Trustee Andre Ouellette, who is with us here today. He is representing the school board and will be laying our first wreath in recognition of the Government of Canada. And then we will have 3 more large wreaths laid down by our administrative staff, all representing the branches of our armed forces, as well as 3 wreaths laid by cadets, again, in acknowledgement and thankfulness for our armed services and in memory of those who served and paid with their lives. I would like to thank Ms. Cooper's choir and Mrs. McLaughlin's orchestra for doing a fine job with O Canada, as well as the individual talents of Mr. Haggerty and his son Gordon on the Celtic kit, and Mr. Luna on trumpet, and of course Isabel Abbott singing on guitar. Your talents have enriched our time. Thank you. Our cadets did an admirable job coming together from multiple branches and worked very hard. Thank you very much for your service and your part. I would also like to acknowledge those behind the scenes. Our Interact Club worked very hard to make a wonderful display within our common space, and I'll make sure we post some pictures of that for everyone to see on our social media. Ms. Iman's class for helping set up behind the scenes here. Our IT crew who pulled it all together, thank you very much, guys. Of course, with the guides, Mr. Hemingway and Mr. Brown. And finally, also I'd like to acknowledge Mrs. May and Ms. Holland for printing off all those pictures and making that all happen. And if I did not acknowledge you and you served a place, thank you very much in making this all happen. All right, so our last piece here is the laying of the wreaths. This will conclude our service. And so once all the wreaths are laid and the song finishes, you can take a moment of contemplation for yourself if you would like. And we will leave the wreaths out here, or at least for lunch, so if anyone wants to stop for a moment and have a moment of contemplation for themselves later, Until the end of lunch, we will leave the wreaths out for you. Okay? So at this time, let us lay the wreaths in recognition of our veterans.